Welcome back to today's episode. It's November 15th, and in television news, the live-action trailer for Avatar: The Last Airbender is out. It's been trending on YouTube for the last week. Suits has been dethroned from its lead position on the Nielsen streaming top 10, which it's held since June, since I believe it entered Netflix, and Hulu will finally be merging with Disney coming up in the next month or so.
Suits for the past 5 months has been the top on the Nielsen.
It got the Netflix bump. I know the last episode was in 2019, but I think it was finally displaced by Mike Flanagan's show, which just so happened to be House of Usher, which
right.
I just finished. And I thought, it was great. It still wasn't as good as Haunting of Hill House, but we knew that going in. It did have, if you go back to listen to that episode, we did get a few things wrong, but overall, again, just another success for him.
And Hulu is just not going to be around anymore. You said it's
yeah.
Disney
So
Plus.
that's really sad because I remember in 2007 I was one of the first people. I was the first person on Hulu. No, I was one of the first people to sign up for their pre-sign up because you had to put your email in, and then they would give you an email to do the beta testing. And so for the first few months it was that, and then for a while it was just all free. But you would get this really annoying 15-second ad that it would replay. It would be the same ad every single time.
And then they doubled the ads.
It used to be that The Office, the only way you could get The Office was via Hulu. And so it started off not even connected to Disney, or at least it was a collaboration of a bunch of different networks. And then I think it was 2009 or 2014 that Disney came in there, bought the whole thing up. And I think by 2010 it was already having a paid subscription.
So the properties on Hulu, they're just all going to be transferred to Disney Plus.
I'm not sure. People are guessing at what the name might be. If it's a combination of Disney and Hulu, and they're coming up with funny stuff for that. But no one knows. It's all up in the air at this point. The show that we're talking about today is called The Curse. It stars Nathan Fielder, Emma Stone, and Benny Safdie, though it also has some notable and unexpected actors showing up, like Corbin, Bernsen, and Constance Shulman, who I recognize from Orange is the New Black, and then obviously Psych for Corbin Bernsen, as well as before that he was in Seinfeld, he was in Major League. He's been around for quite some time. He played her dad, the one who gave the really awkward conversation in this episode.
And I had never heard of Benny Safdie before, but
Wait, what?
Yeah.
The Uncut Gems guy?
Yeah, the guy who directed Uncut Gems.
I could have sworn that you told me about him.
Well, I learned about him as I was doing research for this show, but he co-directed and also edited Good Time with Robert Pattinson, as well as appeared in Oscar-nominated films like Licorice Pizza and will probably be Oscar nominee Oppenheimer.
Which again, you told me about Licorice Pizza when that came out, but I think maybe you knew Josh Safdie, his brother, but I know I've been on his Wikipedia page before, or their Wikipedia pages before. He worked with his brother on this program, right? Because
yes.
I saw Josh's name as well. The way I think about it, though, is that it's really Nathan Fielder's show. This is just another continuation. I knew it was either going to be pushing Nathan Fielder towards Emma Stone type work or Emma Stone towards Nathan Fielder type work, and the guy is just too gravitational. So he pulls everybody towards the acquired taste that he is. I think of it like those who like him enjoy his deadpan facade. They enjoy his unique experimental comedy. They enjoy his social commentary, even if at times it can be enigmatic and also disturbing. But those who don't like him don't really have any patience for him. They find him too eccentric and practical, takes himself too seriously, and they don't really find the satire that compelling.
You and I almost completely agree on this point, because I put this relies heavily on people's liking of Nathan Fielder. So if you like Nathan For You in the rehearsal, even though this is scripted...
So you're already giving away that you enjoyed this.
Yes, I'm a fan of Nathan Fielder, therefore I really enjoyed this episode.
Alright, the episode's called Land of Enchantment. It was the pilot, and it's an hour long.
Can I go through some titles of TV reviews for The Curse? I won't give away what they thought of the series, but
how do you give away
the titles.
How do you give away the titles without saying what they thought?
I want to see if you agree with them or not.
Sure.
So, The Curse will make you squirm. Nathan Fielder, Emma Stone.
It made me do the thing where I get so uncomfortable with, not disgusted or grossed out, but where I need to pause it because I'm just in such an awkward place where...
You and I both.
Yeah.
And Variety put The Curse as the most uncomfortable show of the year.
I wouldn't, the most uncomfortable show of the year. No. There are shows that gross you out and that make you uncomfortable. Even with the House of Usher, there was sometimes I had to pause that, but that was because I was like, ew. So, I mean, I don't get that comparison quite yet, but again, this is just about the pilot. It's just about Land of Enchantment. Yes. Before we jump into the synopsis, the quick few sentences that I have written down here, and then our pros and cons and stuff, I do want to say, I think I've cracked the case with Nathan Fielder. I think I figured out what makes his comedy so different than others. Okay? So typically, deadpan is presented as cool. The person who's doing it is rolling their eyes because someone else is doing something stupid. Think of like April Ludgate in Parks and Recreation, Aubrey Plaza, or Mike from Breaking Bad, Jonathan Banks, Pete Davidson a little bit. Like those type of characters are always supposed to be the ones that like are so smart that they can laugh at the other person,
yes,
right? But Nathan Fielder's style is unique because his deadpan, it does not look down on anyone or show disdain. It's more about making himself like a more evil version of Mr. Bean.
Evil?
Yes.
Oh, you said that he was like, because when we did the rehearsal, you said...
I said he wanted to be like Willy Wonka.
Yes.
But I honestly think that like I think he's in on the joke, but I think like people like him and also John Wilson have this ability to somehow act dumb and deadpan and still bring the audience along with them. They don't lose the audience while doing it. But, I mean, you have to watch it to really understand that, right?
I know that only a few people understand, but he's like a real-life Don Hertzfeldt, in my mind. Like his animation, or like the way in which the narrator speaks.
Yeah.
He also reminds me a little bit, there's definite differences between him, but a little bit like Dax Flame from YouTube, where you're not necessarily sure. Like, I agree with you. I think he's in on the joke, but you're not sure just how in on the joke he is.
I think he's 100% in it. He creates this stuff. He directs it. He writes it. So just like what I was talking about last episode, where I was surprised how the person who was creating, writing, and directing Culprits didn't actually, like, it wasn't his baby. Mm-hmm. This is Nathan Fielder's baby, just like every other one of his projects going back to his YouTube career. All right, so the show is about a recently married couple, Asher and Whitney Siegel, who are in the midst of making an HGTV series. They were able to actually use the logo as HGTV. Yeah. I was a little surprised by that. So this is a reality series. It's called Flipanthropy.
Reminded me of making fun of Fixer Upper.
Yeah, but it also with Chip and whatever is like the wife, the husband-wife team, or the Property Brothers or any other one of those shows. But you watched a show called Flipped, that Quibi program. Was it anything like that from many years ago? Because I think that starred who was it?
Will Forte and Caitlin Olsen.
Yeah, but instead of playing just a couple who are flipping houses, Asher and Whitney are venture capitalists investing in the community of Espanola, New Mexico. Along the way, they help people get jobs, pay rent, and live more eco-friendly lives. But they have a shamelessly ill-mannered scumbag producer named Dougie, who again, Benny Safdie, and a fair number of ugly insecurities already plaguing them, as in like Whitney's past. The pilot, Asher, manages to get himself cursed by a little girl in a parking lot who's selling sodas. But that's sort of where the show's premise concludes, and I'm left with the same question I had at the end of the rehearsal, that other hour-long thing that he did, where it took a while before we saw how the rest of the episodes were going to pan out. In this, it's like, are we really going to spend 10 episodes about a girl and her gimmick of cursing this guy? And like, are we supposed to believe that?
And that's led people to analyze the title, The Curse, because looking at it very surface level, it could just be about what the girl did to Nathan Fielder. But also, people are saying this could be about the behind the scenes. Yeah. Yes, behind the scenes for the HGTV show that they're doing and kind of the cost that comes with that.
There's clearly a lot going on, and I don't think we're supposed to like either Asher or Whitney. We're supposed to see them as extremely flawed, almost Succession level. If they were rich enough, they might be doing the same things that those I won't call them kids, but really they're all adults, so like those people would do. But let's jump into our pros and cons if you want to.
Okay, yeah, sure.
All right, I have 3 pros. The first is that the show retains most everything that people enjoy about Nathan Fielder, specifically his fallibility. Asher is definitely a little bit more emotionally triggered, but when it comes to being compared to Spock or Data, it just kind of, again, that deadpan scenario. But also, like, earlier on in the episode, when you get this interview that's going on between Whitney and Asher, where the interviewer seems to be running a hit piece on Whitney because of what her parents do and how they are similar in that they invest in communities, but then they end up kicking a lot of people out just for the sake of earning cash. like Nathan Fielder's character Asher gets really offended by that. Later on, he also loses his temper at Whitney, and he says, "You're not a moron." Like, he just seems like he's a loose cannon a bit, but at the same time, he's never to a point where, like, this isn't Nathan Fielder that you're watching, right?
Yes.
There's also that awkwardness of, like, the Impractical Jokers level where they're being asked to do something completely embarrassing. And in this case, I would say that when he forgets his rehearsed lines in the interview, that's one instance of it. Another one is where he doubles down on the reporter after she already says that she lost her father.
Seeing him play angry was so different from how I feel like he usually carries himself in something like Nathan For You or The Rehearsal.
I guess that's true. So that would go against my point because I'm saying that, yeah. But he's usually pretty cool about anything that happens.
Yes.
Especially in The Rehearsal when that lady starts, like, pulling some crazy stuff. However, he did lose his temper at her a bit when he starts talking about how she's... we're talking about The Rehearsal now, but where they make a house and then she's speaking to who's supposed to be her kid, the actors playing her kid, as if they're real people, and he's like, "You're not really taking this seriously, are you?"
He started to break character, yeah.
Okay. There was also the penis jokes in this, which were extremely awkward. That sex scene that happened, Dougie hitting on Whitney at the end there, I was like, please don't go there. Like, I just do not want to see an affair between these two. It's just not. And then he even calls Dougie calls Asher Incher. Did you catch that?
No.
Yeah, well, when he goes back to the hotel. So when the dad is, like, criticizing Asher for not his dad, but Whitney's dad, is criticizing him for not being more open about his penis length, it seems like Dougie already knows. And then lying to Whitney at the end, where he says that he's gone back and given the $100 to the girl and had the curse removed, when really that's just going to incubate. That awkwardness is present throughout all his stuff. And then lastly, the comparison that I would make is, you know how with Nathan Fielder, he usually comes up with the stupidest solutions, and then he just goes full throttle with them. In this case, it was like they screwed up that interview. They knew that they were going to get bad press. They had to stop the story. So what did they decide to go with? They decided to try to halt the interview by giving her a better story. But the better story that they go with is the fact that he used to work at a, what was it?
Illegal casino.
No, it's not illegal. It was a normal casino. And he was trying to make it seem as if by the fact that they were allowing people who might be addicts to play, to gamble that they were, that the gaming control board had made some huge mistake, that he was going to out them, that he was going to be a whistleblower. But, like, he's not presenting anything. And you could tell that by her reaction and the fact that the article is still going to get... It was like Larry David like that would be his type of thing. He would try to, like, inflate something that never happened. So what's one of your pros?
The meta humor, because such as Nathan Fielder making a reality show, also Whitney and Asher opening up a coffee shop, dumb Starbucks, or someone who eats food that has human urine added to it, i.e. the Nathan For You episode with the gas rebate episode. In fact, his reaction from the gas rebate episode when he learns that someone drinks someone else's pee is a lot like his reaction in this episode when he learns that his father has been using
it's not
it.
his father, it's Whitney's father.
Whitney's father has been adding urine
his father-in-law,
to it.
yes.
Him also breaking the fourth wall and blurring the lines between reality and fiction. His look at the camera at the end of this episode,
yes.
Nathan For You, it's all about, again, blurring those lines. And the cringe-inducing humor Nathan Fielder is just so known for overall. I thought that was my first pro that really, really worked.
I told you when we first found out about this show that there was going to be one of two scenarios. One is that Emma Stone, because she's always known for, I know she has La La Land and stuff, and she didn't like being typecast as just the girlfriend, the sarcastic girlfriend, but she's been in a ton of comedies for the most part of her career. The biggest, like, independent thing she's been in is Birdman, I would think. So it was either that she was going to come across the aisle to Nathan Fielder's type of work, or he was going to trudge slowly, kind of like he did with the Room, into more of a mainstream. And I think she definitely was pulled closer to him.
That actually falls into my second point. Emma Stone fits in surprisingly well, which you might not expect. Like, once they got her for this show, which was all the way back in December of 2020, it was one of the few shows, or like a few shows, that A24 had decided to start producing.
A24 doing shows, I'm not sure how keen I am on that.
Well,
like,
this is the sixth one that we've done from them.
I know, it's just so strange to see that logo pop up and not be in a movie theater.
But, like, she did, like, kind of the unsettling, I guess, focus, like the tone, being so unsettled
She seemed so into it. Like, she seemed like she was having a great time. She seems like Anna Kendrick when she went onto the Zac Efron show or whatever he was doing when he was trying to be really, like, vegetarian or something.
Also, she's almost more into it than I felt like Nathan Fielder. So
yeah,
and people are starting to kind of put together. The last show she did was Maniac. So part of the reason she maybe did so well on this show is because Maniac is
I was going to compare
chaotic.
this to Maniac. That had Jonah Hill in it. That was on Netflix. However, that was weirder than this show. This show has a plot. Maniac, after the first episode, kind of went off the rails. Like, it was hard to track what was going on there. It started going into the past, alternative lives. I can see why the comparison's been made.
I feel like the series will continue to have a lot of subtext behind it as well. Replayability and being able to catch things you didn't see the first time, I think, will be a huge proponent for this show. Mm-hmm. Also, the quick reference to Mishka the talking dog saying "I love you" from the Husky this episode.
Yeah,
just because I was able to connect that was also
you were able to connect something that was so boldly in the face exactly what it is on YouTube.
Well, just that they would add the whole thing in there, that they would just put that in for kind of no reason.
He's never done that before. Along that note, as much as I'm saying that this is like Nathan Fielder's show, it is good to point out that like the rest of the cast is pulling their weight. Even the side characters, like the shady guy at the ATM, I think he had the perfect balance of like, trust me, dude, like, but obviously being super duper, like, not someone that you would ever want to give your pin to, especially in that situation.
Yep.
Emma Stone just going for it, and then the two, again, Corbin Bernsen and Constance Shulman. I think Corbin Bernsen and Benny Safdie kind of have their characters are both related in that they're both trying to be like the alpha guy in the room.
Yes.
It's just funnier when Corbin Bernsen's doing it because he's trying to make his little like. Were you surprised by the amount of like nudity that they showed? Because I mean, it was obviously fake, but like still, it reminded me of
because they don't set you up for it with Nathan Fielder as he's going to the bathroom. It just suddenly cuts to it.
They did set us up. I mean, they threw the carrot on the plate, and then Emma Stone started laughing a lot, or Whitney started laughing a lot. My second big pro for the show is Love to the Third Degree, the reality television series that was within this series. Not Flipanthropy, but the one that they just tuned onto TV. We've done reviews for Sexy Beasts on Netflix where every contestant is gorgeous, but they're wearing Halloween makeup, so you don't know who they look like, and they just have to find love that way. And then there's also shows like Love is Blind where I know they get engaged before they see each other's faces. But this was like someone who was a Deadpool like level Bernie victim, and the amount of puns that they were able to stick into that trailer, the trailer gave everything away.
Yes, yeah.
But it was hilarious. How do you sign up for a show called Love to the Third Degree and not, like, how do they run a season 2 of it is my question. Because obviously it's always going to have the person who, the beautiful woman is getting with, be like a complete burn victim. And then I think one of their lines, my favorite one was, or does the fire burn on? Because you can see as they're on the altar, like, then she just says no, right?
Yes, and also that it felt, I know we already mentioned it, but I think you should leave. That feels like a sketch straight out of there. Yes. Because at first I was like kind of annoyed. I was just bored of the trailer. But then as it kept going, I found it funnier and funnier. Also that it was hosted by Dan Cortez. Whenever I see him or hear his name, I always think about Bill Hader playing Stefan whenever he was talking about it, and he kept saying Dan Cortez at every club. So yes, that was one of my favorite parts. And then like you mentioned, the pin, the ATM machine was probably my second.
Your second pro, it completely was just that scene?
No, I'm saying in terms of favorite parts of the episode.
The thing about the pin was that there were several times in this episode where I actually felt like I was on Asher's side, and I wasn't sure if the actual show wanted you to be on his side. Does that make sense?
Like on what? Like
there was, again, I don't think I would have wanted to give my pin to a random person at that ATM. Like when he calls his bank right afterwards, I don't really blame him for doing that. There are other parts where he's like obviously too eccentric, where he's going off a little bit too much. But there was that. There was being mad at Whitney for telling her parents about their sex life or implying what was going on with their sex life. And then also when he got the wrong order for takeout, calling them back and then having to argue about like whether or not he got chicken penne. there was no chicken in it and how they should refund him, at least for that dish. Like, all three of those things felt like kind of acceptable things to get mad about or lose your temper about. It didn't when he took the $100 away from the girl, obviously that was the stupidest decision. Like, you go in there and you just, like, you're running a full TV show and you can't waste $100 and just be happy about that. Like, it made no sense. But again, I think that's more just his mindset and how he's very analytical, as Dougie put it. Right? So there's a give and a take. As far as my last pro, is that the direction was really good. Asher and Whitney had a scene where they were in their house and it was shot through a mirror. Like, one of them was, I think Nathan Fielder was in the shot, and then you saw Emma Stone in the mirror responding to him. I thought that was pretty clever. I also liked how they shot the fake interview in front of the fake store, in front of their own fake show that's doing, like, there's a lot of cameras on set, and doing it in a way that kind of looked real was, I thought, to their credit. And then keeping the audience around for the full hour, that's always difficult to do, especially with some sort of comedies. And I wasn't bored by it. They had a ton of different scenes: ATM, van, parking lot, hotel room, subway. It was weird seeing the inside of a Subway after all this time. I stopped, like, eating there, I think, 5 years ago or something. And it's just cool to see that they're exactly the same. The jeans place, the coffee place, their house, which, again, the metaphor for the fact that their house is just mirrors as opposed to glass, or as opposed to anything else, is just hilarious to me. And so, yeah, those are my 3 pros.
I think, and this is just a prediction, but in that scene where we see Emma Stone in the mirror, she's at one point just looking at Asher's character, and I'm thinking that with the curse, she is somewhat compromised. Like, there is something in her mind; she's going to be evil or something. Because,
what? No, that was like one of those, like, no offense, but the next scene they were literally going to fuck. So I think she was giving him just, like, sex eyes. I think that's what that was.
That's.
Like, that's why he was like, hey, you want to fuck now? Like, it literally led right into that. In that scene, there has never been, like, I don't want to kink shame, but there's never been a more non-sexual sex scene.
That was hard to get through.
Since Beef with a gun. Remember when she's, like, masturbating with a gun?
Yeah.
Like, nothing about that is sexy. It was just, and that was for, It wasn't gross, it was just, it wasn't sexy.
Yeah, and then
I wonder if they even had an intimacy coordinator there. Yeah.
Going into the cons, what were they for you?
Oh, I thought, have you gone through all your pros?
Yeah, those are all
good. All right. So cons is it takes away from his other shows because it shows that he's in on that joke. You know? So, like, the rehearsal, I feel like, and also Nathan For You, if he never left that realm and he was always playing Nathan, you know, he never changes his name. It's not a groundbreaking revelation at all. Like, he's sort of distanced, but making a full television comedy now, and it's kind of hard to go back to the rehearsal season 2, where you're supposed to believe that this is his real life and this is what's happening to him. Because remember, he was going through some sort of, like, epiphany by the end of season 1. Now it just feels like, okay, well, that's all stage 2, which we knew, but, like, we didn't 100% know. Does that make sense?
I think, but he's shown up in other comedies before, like other comedy films. And
he's done interviews before,
shows.
too.
So, and as someone who has seen a lot of Nathan For You and the full season of the rehearsal like you, I'm not sure if I agree 100% that it takes away from it. But I do see your point in the end where it's like maybe when he's having these realizations about himself, like in Finding Frances, the finale for Nathan For You, maybe it does take away from that message a little bit. I feel the last 30 minutes turned too A24 for me and was just too long. You said you were never bored. I really was enjoying everything up until they went into the separate room where the dad was urinating on the tomatoes, because I just felt like I got it. That was the point of the joke. It was supposed to be that it was so long, but I couldn't get really into it afterwards, because then I felt like the show just decided to go as haywire as possible, and I then understood what people meant when they were saying that it was very uncomfortable to watch, because the rest of the last 30 minutes are just things you don't really want to see, including that sex scene that you were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the order of the show, since it's been like a day or two since I saw it, is kind of getting scrambled in my head. But I thought after the ATM scene is when it really kind of kicked off, because that was when the curse happened, and I was like up until then a little unsure of what they meant by that. And now I'm just like, okay, so it's all about this girl. Which I don't know if they're ever going to see that family again. But my second con is that we don't get any sci-fi. So it's called The Curse, and I've seen Toby Kebbell in The Servant, where like he doesn't even do anything that wrong, but he loses his taste as a chef, and he keeps bad stuff, karma stuff keeps happening to him. I just watched The Fall of the House of Usher, and karma stuff keeps happening there. It feels like karma is going to be a big central theme in this show, but we're not going to get any sort. For a show called The Curse, to not have any supernatural thing happen is a little disappointing, just a little bit.
I'm withholding judgment on that because I think that
maybe it will happen.
It probably will, because I know that when they were premiering this at different film festivals and stuff, they were showing the first 3 episodes, and so I think I think there probably will be some sci-fi.
But then again, not to introduce that in your pilot, to give people the introduction.
We see that The Curse.
It would just subvert my expectations, which would be a good thing ultimately. So I guess that's a compliment. Yeah.
I'm worried about the weird love triangle that you kind of talked about earlier with Dougie, Whitney, and Asher. Just because I don't want to see that. I feel like the show has strong enough characters and strong enough story arcs where they don't have to go that route. Maybe it would try and change.
I would
direction.
see it less of a love triangle and more like a mistake where she, like, in a moment of vulnerability, really steps down
because
to his...
she was taken aback by what Dougie was saying at the very end, like in a good way. When she was doing the narration.
I would see her getting like super duper drunk sometime because she was upset with Nathan Fielder with Asher because she found out that he had done something, because she found out about the curse that he never talked to, and then like sleeping with Dougie and then having to keep that a secret, or coming clean about it but feeling disgusted with herself. Like I can see that happening, and it just doesn't feel like a good arc to take. Yeah, I agree with you there on that point. The last con I have, we've sort of addressed it already, but does the show have enough steam from the kids saying something in a parking lot, just saying, "I curse you," to go for 10 episodes, for 9 more hours? It doesn't even feel like the rehearsal was that long. I'm a little frightened by what that means and whether or not we're going to lose it halfway through, and then it's just going to be like, what are we watching at this point? Of the last 5 shows we've seen, Lawman Bass Reeves, Culprits, Bargain, All the Light We Cannot See, and Captain Laserhawk, how would you rate that? Like, where would you put this?
This is the best.
Definitely. I would, even above Captain Laserhawk, because I know you really like that one.
I mean, I like Captain Laserhawk, but this I thought was better.
Yeah, I would also tend to agree that All the Light We Cannot See had some amazing visual stuff. But yeah, I think that this is probably the most interesting one going forward to watch, and I think I will continue to watch it.
I will continue to watch it as well. I know it was supposed to originally be 30-minute comedy and then became an hour-long drama. So,
do you think they just threw in extra stuff, like the fact that they're religious in that family? Because it seemed kind of odd that is he Jewish in real life? He has Jewish parents. I think
he is Jewish.
Yeah, but then you have the Jewish thing was interesting. She pronounced her prayers correctly, Whitney did, and then there was the yarmulke that her dad was wearing. I wonder if any of them are actually Jewish besides Nathan Fielder.
Yeah, no, I had that same
I know that
question.
Emma Stone's not. I also found it funny that Emma Stone from a few years ago got backlash for her part in the casting of Aloha, which she then said that she regretted afterwards. But now she's sort of playing that kind of like the type of person who wouldn't see why that was an issue, who would oversee why that was an issue.
As people, a white savior. That's what people actually called Whitney and Asher when they were doing reviews for this show. Yeah. It reminded me, the last show I'll compare it to is Unreal, especially the first scene was just how a satire on how reality shows, and most of the reality shows are even more unreal than scripted ones. What would you give the series? What would your rating be?
6.5.
6.5?
Yeah, I know that seems a little low, but again, 5 is my average, and 6.5 is kind of, I'm hedging my bet on whether or not it loses steam. And so that's why I will continue to watch it, though, unlike most 6.5s that I give.
My rating is a 7 out of 10, and like I said, I will be watching the rest of it. It has a 6.9 on IMDb and an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Guardian gave the series 5 out of 5 stars, saying it is horrible and excruciating, yet it is also inventive, provocative, and oddly mesmerizing. And then The Hollywood Reporter said the curse is viscerally unpleasant and frequently fascinating place to spend time. And
if we had a rating system for how easy it would be to show that episode to your parents, I think this would rank near the bottom.
Yes.
Especially, definitely, yeah.
People say you will loathe it or you will love it, depending on who you are, and I couldn't agree more with that statement.
All right, thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.